I'd like to illustrate a workflow for generating a graded levee at a particular elevation. So we start, like most grading operations, with a blank terrain and add a background. And the background in this case will be the original ground surface. I just picked one near my house actually. So there's our surface, and I'm just going to throw in a feature down here. So you can see from the hover tips that the elevation is just under 40 meters in this zone. So I'm going to start with that as my elevation. I'm going to create a new feature which is 3D and modeled, so it will be part of the designed surface later. Draw it with the mouse. Let's call it levee, make it at least a sensible name. Draw it with the mouse, and I'm going to choose elevation 50 because that's just above the ground. You know, 45 might be closer to what I want, but it's going to change in a minute, so let's just leave it at 50. And I'm going to draw a few intersection points here. And the elevation is always 50. It's not actually doing anything with the original ground here. Let's look at that in profile. So I'll create a profile window, and I don't need that to be locked scale, and I would like to be able to zoom around. There we go. So you can see the design feature and the draped ground underneath. That's because the profile has the background turned on. And now I want to drape this on the ground. So I use the terrain modeling tin operations drape, and I pick the target surface, and this is important. Exclude tin points, do not include tin points, and that will just drape the 4 or 5 intersection points that I created. So each of those points has an elevation picked up from the ground. Now we just need to lift it by 5 meters. You can do that with the shift operation. Just type in the elevation you want here, and it'll move them all the same amount. Or transform, and we're not going to do a projection, we're just going to do a simple rotate, translate, scale. So I enable that and set this to 5 meters for my offset. So that'll go up 5 meters, and there we are. Now that is exactly what you asked for, but in case some of these points were sitting in the wrong spot, or if you want to just change the gradient of that alignment, you can do that after the fact. We can go into the feature tools coordinates, and we can adjust any one of those elevations. And of course you can see the elevations in the profile, so you can see what elevation the ground is there. It's 5 meters below that, and easily done. Just change it, hit update, it's done. Another tool here that might be useful, if you go to survey mode, each one of these has a slope associated with it. So let's say I just want this to slope continuously at 2% starting there. I can go through and modify these slopes like so. There's probably a few different ways to do this, but this is the one that I thought of first. So change that to a 2, go to the next one, 2, go to the next one, and you can see that the gradient, oh no, why is it not showing up there? Don't know. It will when I'm finished though, however. Oh, I didn't click on update list, that's why. So there you go, there's a 2% gradient, and it's getting pretty close to the ground on this slopey part here, which makes sense. Why would I need a levee that's way up in the air when the water can't get there? So now I'm ready to do my grading operation. So let's just buffer this on both sides. I'm assuming you know how to do this part, but I thought I'd include it just for fun. So I'm going to buffer this feature to make the top of the levee. I'll go out 1 meter both sides. There it is. Join those two together, Control J, and let's just check which way it's moving. This is a feature that is drawn in the clockwise direction, so I need to buffer to the left, or pardon me, grade to the left. So let's go to the grading tool and grade to the left down to the original ground. Let's use, now that's the cut slope, let's change the fill slope and put in some interpolated points so these long straight segments have a few more slope lines, and turn all these on to get volumes. I don't need contours, but I do need every triangle, and I think that does it. Let's just calculate the volumes here and do the grading at the same time. That looks pretty good. So we're filling about 2,800 cubic meters. Sometimes you need to flip this around, but in this case it's correct. The only thing I don't like is I've got my labels turned on in the plan window. It's making it kind of messy. So let's just turn off those comments at feature points. There we go. So that's my levee, and of course I can look at that in 3D. So let's just do that. That looks pretty good. When you're using 3D, it usually makes sense to turn this on. It's off by default. When track mouse is turned on, it tends to rotate nicer, and you can see your cursor moving in both windows. And I don't think there's anything more that we need to do there. That surface looks right, so the volumes are probably right too. I hope that helps. Thank you. Bye-bye.